the issues affecting Asia's animals and the stories of the people working on their behalf. We'll be taking you on a tour of what's been happening lately in the animal protection space around Asia and also bringing you updates from our huge network of animal protection organizations and our many working groups. Welcome to the Asia for Animals podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Animals Online series, part of the AFA podcast, which focuses on the issue of animal cruelty content on social media. This is brought to you by the AFA Social Media Animal Cruelty Coalition. I am your host, Amanda, and I am one of the SMAC coordinators. Today, we are shining a spotlight on a disturbing trend that is gaining momentum on social media, the exploitation of macaques for likes and shares. SMAC was created in 2020 to tackle the global issue of animal cruelty content on social media. SMAC and our member organization, of which we currently have over 20, work together to raise public awareness of the issue, carry out research, and crucially work closely with social media platforms to improve their policies and moderation to protect animals from online harms. In the last few years, SMAC has seen a rise in the amount of content showing on the abuse of macaque monkeys on social media. This has ranged from their keeping as pets right through to the extreme torture. To delve deeper into this specific form of cruelty content, I would like to extend a warm welcome to two of SMAC's member organizations, Nina Jekyll from Lady Freethinker, an animal advocacy organization based in the US, and Sarah Kite from Action for Primates, who is based in the UK. Both of these organizations have worked extensively on tackling macaque cruelty on social media. Hello, Nina and Sarah. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It's really great to have you both here, and let's jump right into our conversation. And first of all, could you give us an overview of what Lady Freethinker and Action for Primates do and how you become aware of animal protection issues surrounding online cruelty content, particularly the exploitation of macaques? Maybe Sarah, would you like to start these discussions?
Certainly. Action for Primates has been going for the last 3 to 4 years. We're a project based in the UK, and we advocate globally for non-human primates. So whether it's their trade, transportation, or use in research, or being kept captive as pets or used in entertainment, or more recently, the growing disturbing trend, as you referred to, the exploitation and abuse of monkeys, in particular macaques, for social media. It's an issue that we became very much aware of not long after we started Action for Primates. And it's a very disturbing issue that we've found has escalated over the years and involves incredible suffering and cruelty. It's an area that we've worked very closely on with Lady Freethinker during the past 3 years. It's an area that's taken up an increasing amount of our time, and one that's very disturbing, and one that certainly causes great concern and distress amongst our supporters and the general public.
That's really awesome, and you work closely with Lady Freethinker. So Nina, would you tell us about what Lady Freethinker do and why you're real Lady Freethinker?
Yeah, so Lady Freethinker is a nonprofit animal protection organization dedicated to exposing and stopping animal suffering at human hands. And we work on a variety of issues involving different species. However, animal cruelty on social media has become our largest campaign purely because it's grown and it's become so prolific in the past few years. It's a massive problem. And I first became aware of it in 2020 when we started seeing various videos of animals being abused on social media. And we compiled a report really focusing on YouTube at the time. And one of those types of videos that we started seeing were baby monkey abuse videos. And some of those included, baby monkeys being chained and dragged around and, beaten. And then shortly thereafter, Sarah actually came to me with information about a group that had branched off of YouTube and started commissioning horrific torture videos that, went beyond, what we had originally seen, which was bad enough. But it seemed that people wanted to go even further and just commit very brutal acts against these monkeys in private groups. And that was in 2021. And since then, we've been working together to expose this phenomenon and work to stop, both the underground torture rings as well as the more common supposedly cute macaque videos on social media that are also causing a lot of harm and cruelty.
That's a long time from 3 years ago. And both of you have, the similar concern about cruelty with macaques online. So for listeners unfamiliar with the cruelty faced by macaques online, can you maybe give us an overview of the issue, like usually in what ways they are exploited for social media content? Maybe Nina, because you're telling us about that, they are like underground torturing and all that. Maybe could you lead us off with this conversation about like what kind of exploitation that usually they are faced?
Yeah. So, there are two sort of different but also similar ways in which the monkeys are exploited. First we have the seemingly benign videos where people take baby monkeys and dress them up in human clothing, treat them like dolls. And these are the types of videos that attract people who just think they're adorable and sweet and don't understand that the monkeys are actually suffering in those situations. Then you have this other sort of subculture of people who actually enjoy watching the torture of the baby monkeys. And that's where you see the extremely brutal treatment. I don't want to get too graphic, but, we've seen monkeys with limbs chopped off, burned, drowned, all these horrible things. And those are, created with the intention of harming the monkey for the amusement of others. So, both of these types of videos are extremely damaging. One is really born from ignorance because humans don't understand the suffering behind taking a baby monkey and, forcing it to, act like a human. Or, they don't understand what happens behind the scenes, which is something that Sarah and I have also worked to expose because the conditions when the camera is off are a lot different than when the camera is on. But then, on the other side of that, you have the people who just actually want to watch torture. So it's a massive issue, and, people watch these for different reasons. The level of cruelty might vary, but all of it is causing immense harm.
Yeah, it's the cruelty behind the screen, behind the camera. I really agree with that. And it's like complicated issue. So maybe Sarah, could you maybe give us an overview about what do you think about the cruelty that macaques face on social media?
Well, as Nina said, there are two main types of cruelty, if you like, that the monkeys are subjected to. And one is where they're kept captive in human households as so-called pets. anyone who knows anything about wild animals will know that a domestic environment is not the right place. Wild animals should not be kept, and certainly monkeys should not be kept as pets. So there's actual cruelty involved in the way in which the animals are obtained. So baby monkeys will be taken from their mothers, which is one of the cruelest things that you could do to a primate, is to forcibly separate the mother from their young. So depriving that infant of the mother for the rest of their life will have major psychological and physical impact on them. And other ways in which these animals suffer when they're kept in captivity is when they're forced to take part in various different activities. They may be forced to walk on their hind legs, so their hands, their arms, their front limbs are bound to stop them from walking on all fours, so they have to walk upright. They may be dressed in human clothes and treated as babies, human babies. I mean, they're basically wild animals being kept under unnatural conditions, treated like human children, and then controlled and manipulated to perform while being filmed for human entertainment. And the impact on them psychologically and physically is immense. But the other side of it as well is the area where you have the gratuitous cruelty that's been inflicted on these animals, where Nina described the torture and the abuse and the killing for social media. So you move away from monkeys being kept as pets, where they may be teased or tormented, to animals, to monkeys who are being gratuitously and sadistically brutalized and tortured and killed for human entertainment. I mean, it's absolutely sickening. It's perverted and sadistic behavior, and it's just incredible that it's still out there on social media, on public social media and platforms, accessible to anybody who wants it.
Yeah, it's yeah, I was just about to ask about like what do you think about their mental and physical damage? And yeah, just like what you said, that they should be in the wild and they are being kept as pets. So, it's unnatural. It's, of course, they are being mentally pressed, and, it's for human entertainment. It's really sickening. And I like, why it's macaque? Do you have maybe any idea, or maybe you have any like some sort of assumption on why it's macaques are being exploited, and why this primates is like the most common that are being exploited? Maybe Sarah, you can tell us more about it.
Yeah, I mean, there are many species of animals who are being abused on social media, but certainly the primate, the monkey abuse that we see has taken off and escalated in recent years. And it's very much focused on macaques, particularly the long-tailed macaque, which is indigenous to Southeast Asia. And I mean, I don't want to begin to explain people's behavior and why they abuse and mistreat animals in the way that they do. All I can say is that there are probably several reasons why the macaque and why the long-tailed macaque has ended up being the target of so much abuse and hostility. Certainly in some countries, they're not adequately protected by legislation, which makes them especially vulnerable to people who want to exploit and persecute them. We also have the situation in some countries where the natural habitat of long-tailed macaques has been destroyed by human activity. So the species has less and less available habitat on which to live, and often comes into conflict or negative interactions with humans, basically just in search of food and survival. They often live alongside people, which again creates challenging situations for people. Again, the monkeys may be at the receiving end of a lot of hostility. They're referred to as pests or vermin. One of the terms that's used, but for the long-tailed macaque on social media is tree rats. So using that sort of negative language, treating them or calling them tree rats and vermin, is obviously going to reinforce that level of hostility against them. So I think there are several reasons why the poor macaque has ended up being on the receiving end of this sort of abuse and persecution. And certainly it's an area that needs education, pressure being put on governments and authorities to protect these monkeys so that they're not subjected or they're not victims of this type of abuse. So there are many areas of work that need to be carried out in order to make sure that these macaques receive the same sort of protection as other wild animals do.
Yeah, there are like a lot of parties need to work together to address macaques are not pets and they're not supposed to be treated like that. Maybe Nina, can you give us like more insight into like why it's macaque, why it is primates?
Yeah, well, I also don't want to put myself in the mind the type of person who enjoys watching this content, but I will say that macaques, young macaques, do look a lot like human babies, and those human-like features might contribute to people's fascination with them. And both those who enjoy watching them dressed as human dolls and those who enjoy watching them abused, have a certain fascination with this species in particular. And those human-like qualities, might help explain some of that. Yeah, I mean, even beyond social media, macaques, long-tailed macaques, they go through a lot of suffering at human hands. They're also used for medical research, and as Sarah mentioned, their territory is really being encroached on by humans. So, I mean, this is a species that has just endured so much at human hands, and they absolutely need strong protections.
Yeah, I was absolutely agree. Like we are like living side by side. We should be able to live coexistent with them. But unfortunately, we are like being like superpower and just like benefit with all human, all living being with unresponsible behavior. I think I can say that. And even though a lot of this content is being created in Asia, likely due to the easy access to the macaque species, just like what Sarah said, we understand that the contents are being consumed worldwide. And maybe can you let us know more about this and how it's important not to point fingers at one or two people or maybe to like a certain area or countries. And perhaps you can tell us about the BBC documentary about the monkey haters, which is causing like a lot of people more aware of this issue. Maybe Nina, can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So this content would not exist without people in the US, the UK, other Western countries consuming it. The industry is fueled by the people who watch, share, purchase this content. So while it may be created in countries where people have access to the macaques, it is consumed primarily by people who live elsewhere. So there is no finger pointing at any particular country, and I believe that everybody involved is culpable, no matter where they live. I actually worked with a publicist to pitch the BBC. Sarah and I had worked on a press release about this monkey torture ring specifically that we had been investigating in 2021. And the BBC did decide to pick up our press release. And from there, they went on to conduct their own extensive investigation. They worked for about a year and a half, interviewing people who were involved, everyone from whistleblowers to the people who were actually perpetuating the abuse. They worked with law enforcement and gathered a lot of evidence and a lot of material to really paint a picture of what was happening. And the documentary aired last year, and thankfully it did have a strong effect. It was viewed by Parliament. I think it really, shook a lot of people, when they saw this horrific cruelty that was happening, beyond what I think anybody really imagined was possible. The level of sadism and depravity is, it's sickening, and it's something that you don't want to believe exists in the world. So, that being revealed to the public was profound and helped lead to the inclusion of animal cruelty in the UK Online Safety Act, which, while it's still, in the process of being rolled out, will hopefully hold social media platforms accountable for posting at least the very worst forms of monkey abuse. And that, awareness certainly goes a long way, because at this point, it's harder for these people to hide.
Yeah, I think the BBC Monkey Haters really open people's eyes about this issue. Maybe Sarah, you can tell us more about this, because you're also working with the Lady Freethinker about this BBC Monkey Haters.
Yes, so Nina and I were both involved in providing information and intelligence to the BBC documentary. And as Nina said, the programme aired last year, and it caused a big outcry in the UK here, going out on national news. At the time, the Online Safety Bill was going through the Houses of Parliament, and it brought attention to the whole issue of animal cruelty on social media. Up until that point, animal cruelty hadn't been included as a harmful content within the Online Safety Bill. So you had other areas of concern and harm included, other categories, but not animal cruelty. And it was one of the things that we were campaigning to have included. And the documentary, the BBC, The Monkey Haters, was broadcast at the time the bill was going through, as I said, the Houses of Parliament. So it caught the attention of various peers and lords, and various questions were asked, amendments were tabled, and it proved to be had a major impact on having animal cruelty included as a harmful content within the Act itself. So we're hoping that it will cause social media platforms to take action, because clearly up until that point, they weren't enforcing their own guidelines, and they're still not. So we're hoping that once the Act is fully implemented, that we will notice a change in the way social media platforms allow this type of content to be posted on their platforms.
Yeah, I really agree with that. Why this type of content is still on their platform when it's, sometimes it's clearly that violates their community guidelines, because sometimes, it's extreme, it's a real abuse, and why it's there. So
it absolutely violates their guidelines. I mean, we're absolutely, we're just appalled. I mean, it's horrifying that this type of content, that you've got monkeys being abused and tortured and killed. These types of videos are out there on social media and fully accessible to, as I said, to anybody who can go on those platforms, whether it be young children or adults. I mean, it's incredibly harmful content. It's harmful to the animals, and it's harmful to the people who watch it.
Yeah, it seems like there is a loophole on the guidelines. Maybe Nina, you can tell us more about it. Maybe you have some sort of idea, why this type of content is still there when the community guidelines clearly stated no.
Yeah, so the sadistic torture is clearly in violation of the community guidelines for any social media platform. That said, these platforms are not dedicating the type of resources needed to find and remove and also to prevent them from being posted in the first place. So we do see some of the worst videos being removed. And, Sarah and I both work very hard to track and report these videos with mixed results. Um, it's not necessarily that they allow it. It's more that they're not they're not doing what they need to do to solve the problem. And those community guidelines really only prohibit those horrific videos in which animals are very clearly being abused at human hands. Unfortunately, there really are no guidelines against the type of wild animal captivity that we know is harmful, but isn't graphic enough, isn't violent enough for them to really do anything about it. So, I think we're dealing with two issues here. And first of all, and most depressingly, we want them to get these monkey torture rings off of their platforms and give them no space to post gruesome content. And that should be a no-brainer, really. And second, ultimately there do need to be some sort of shifts in policies, in the way that they handle the content that, maybe is less graphic, but is still very harmful. Because unfortunately, when they allow these channels to monetize the exploitation of, macaques as well as other animals, what you get as a result is abuse. So, there are definitely different layers here. And I think that, the most success we will see right now is in the removal of the torture content. And, the other, the other abuse, I think, is really going to depend a lot on viewers being educated and, not sharing, not engaging, and basically not allowing the content creators to make money because they make money from engagement on those channels.
Yeah, it's like a really complicated issue. So do you think like what is like the main challenge that animal advocates like Action for Primates and Lady Freethinkers tackling this problem in changing the situation about this issue? Maybe like advocacy, and like what is the main challenge other than dealing with platform is like you've been working for 3 years and it's kind of like stuck. So maybe Sarah, you can tell us like what is the biggest challenge that you face?
Well, I think I would say there are three areas that we have focused on with Lady Freethinker over the last 3 years. One of which is the social media companies themselves, so trying to get them to enforce their own guidelines and to take this content off of their platforms. And that certainly has been very challenging. You've just heard Nina explain why, and that's an ongoing issue, and that's something that SMAC, Asia for Animals, is very focused on globally, and we work with them on that. The second issue is the whole legislation side, which we've seen with the UK Online Safety Bill, and we're hoping that will set a precedent almost in terms of encouraging other countries to also have similar legislation that will include animal cruelty. I think that's one of the things that has come out of this investigation, and particularly with the BBC documentary and the whole monkey torture issue, is just how pervasive this is across social media and how little people were aware of it. People outside the animal protection movement were aware as to what was actually happening online and how horrific it was. So I think legislation plays a very important role, and that's certainly one of the things that we've been focusing on in the UK. And the third thing, which is very important, and we haven't discussed so far, is law enforcement. It's actually holding people to account. So not just people who are carrying out the abuse and the torture on the monkeys, but those people who are paying for it, who are dictating what happens to the monkey, or who are just posting the video. So they're posting obscene materials online. So we've, again, with Lady Freethinker, we've worked very hard over the last 3 years in contacting law enforcement in the US and the UK. We've worked with other organisations in SMAC, International Animal Rescue and Jakarta Animal Aid Network with regards to just letting the law enforcement know in different countries exactly what's going on and what's happening, and asking for action to be taken so that, people are, they do realise that there are consequences to their actions, that you can't get away with just torturing a monkey to death or paying to have a monkey tortured to death or posting a video that shows a monkey being tortured to death and think that that's fine, that that's normal, that's acceptable behaviour, because it's not. And I think the last year, following the BBC documentary and the fallout from that, I think it's very clear that it's not acceptable. And I think that message is getting out, and we've seen action taken by law enforcement in several countries, including in the US, in the UK and Indonesia. People have been imprisoned as a result, and there are still charges and other, arrests outstanding. So we have been encouraged by that, and it's certainly an important area to continue to focus on.
Yeah, I think the BBC Monkey Aid just really wakes people up about this issue, and the law enforcement and maybe the social media escalated, where your reports are getting responded by the social media platform. Is there any example or experience on that?
Yeah, so interestingly, the smaller platforms tend to be very responsive. And, when Action for Primates and Lady Freethinker first exposed the monkey torture ring in 2021, they were using a platform called Motion. That was where they jumped to from YouTube initially. And when I reached out to Motion, they immediately removed the account. I mean, it was wonderful. Once they moved to Telegram, things got a lot more difficult because Telegram is encrypted. It's incredibly private and very difficult to track. And Telegram itself doesn't really respond to requests to remove, any sort of chats or groups. I know they have removed some, but obviously, the problem is absolutely flourishing on their platform, and that's something that's very hard to track. With the larger platforms, there have been some successes. YouTube used to be the platform of choice for the monkey sadists, and they would post, their most gruesome content there. Now you won't see a lot of that type of sadistic content because they removed a lot of it. Lady Freethinker actually filed a lawsuit against YouTube in October 2021 over content like this, and there was a lot of media attention around that and the issue in general. And I think that they, although they still haven't really communicated with us, it does seem as though they, paid attention and took steps to remove it. That said, the pet monkey channels are still a tremendous problem on YouTube. But then they sort of jumped to Facebook, and, while it did seem promising initially because Facebook was willing to have a conversation with the SMAC coalition and its members, which is something that YouTube did not agree to do at the time. Those talks didn't lead to the type of action that was needed to solve the problem. And we still, Action for Primates and Lady Freethinker, send reports on this to Facebook constantly, and they do remove a good number of the videos, which obviously is a success to some degree. However, these profiles and pages just reappear under different names and continue posting the content. So they're not adequately addressing the problem. So, and I know that Sarah has also, reached out to some other of the smaller social media platforms that have responded quickly as well. So, the larger platforms that have so much to deal with and also have more at stake in terms of profiting from this content, it seems, have been the most difficult to deal with. Although, there has been progress, there has been. And even though the problem is so far from over, I feel like the work that we have been doing has had an impact. And I shudder to think of what the landscape would look like without the work that we have done. So progress takes more time than I would like, and I think more than most of us would like. But I am still optimistic, and I think that, even though it might take years, we will see an end to this problem, and that it won't always look the way it does right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the most shocking things over the past year, I think, Nina, you'll probably agree, is not so much the extent of the abuse that's been out there on social media, but it's the horrific nature of it. It just has become more violent. It's just continued to escalate. So you've gone from monkeys being tormented and teased to this full-blown gratuitous cruelty and absolutely horrific stuff that once a year ago would have just been circulated on private encrypted platforms like Telegram is now out there on Facebook, and I think that's the concern, that you have this situation where this appalling violence, and it is absolutely appalling violence, has become almost normalized in people's minds. It has become sort of part of their daily life, and you think, how have we got to this point where that level of violence and brutality is being inflicted on animals for entertainment, for people to make fun or enjoyment or get some sort of sexual sadistic pleasure out of seeing a vulnerable baby infant, bearing in mind that some of these monkeys are just days and weeks old, watching them being so brutally and gratuitously killed. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we are talking about social media, and it's like a lot of platforms, like from minor, small platform, and then into like a huge platform, and it's like everywhere. Just like what Sarah said, it was just like become public consumption, which is just why. And it's also like we are, as a animal advocate, we are working also with the social media to to promote, like to share the awareness. But we are sharing awareness is also sometimes using the picture of animal to there are like a lot of strategy on how we do the campaign. So is there any like strategies on how to deal with that, how to make that our campaign still reach the educate awareness from people, educate attention from people, but not with the cruelty, because it's almost similar. It's also we are using the same hashtag. Maybe we are using the same hashtag monkey, so it's also the same hashtag as the maybe monkey abuser use. So do you guys have any experience on like the best practice on how to do it? Maybe Nina, you can share something with us.
Yeah, there's actually a huge issue because the social media platforms really can't differentiate between an animal cruelty video that is shared for educational purposes and one that is shared for entertainment or sadism. This is especially true with a lot of the fake rescue videos that we see, which is a different form of animal abuse, but it also does tend to happen to macaques overwhelmingly over other species. So, you might have a video maker putting a baby macaque in, a horrible situation, like buried in mud or trapped under a tire, and then pretending to save the animal. And a social media platform really does not know how to understand the difference between that sort of staged video and an actual animal rescue. And that's one of the the problems that we're facing in terms of getting them to understand how. And there have been requests from social media platforms on how to tell the difference. And I think the bottom line is that unless the video poster identifies themselves, and provides information on who they are, and if it's somebody pretending to be a rescuer, well, are they a nonprofit organization? Are they a legitimate rescuer that you can research and look up somewhere? And if they're not, then it's very likely an animal cruelty video and not educational and not an actual rescue. I'm sure it's happened, but so far I have not seen, at least from our organization, any videos being removed for depicting animal cruelty. Our investigative videos do get pretty somewhat graphic, and they haven't been removed, thankfully. But then again, that could just be a product of the platforms not really doing enough to remove cruelty. And I'm sure that there are other organizations that have had content removed. So, it might be affecting some. But yeah, that education is something that social media platforms need. And the shift to AI or algorithms to identify these videos, which is primarily how they identify abusive videos these days. A program is going to have an even more difficult time distinguishing a legitimate animal advocacy video from a sadistic video than a human being. So I mean, it's an issue that that we're working on, and there's a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, with the with the AI and content moderation now, we don't know yet what can they detect. Like, is it educational or is it abuse? It's quite tricky. And maybe Sarah, you can share with us. Maybe you have like experience, or maybe you have like content that is being taken down by the platform. Can you tell us more about it?
I'm not aware that we've had anything taken down. I think it is an important issue, and there does need to be as Nina says, there does need to be a distinction made between those genuine organisations that are working to inform and educate the public, and those individuals who are just out there wanting to post gratuitous violence for its own sake, whether for shares or for the financial reward. I mean, there certainly does need to be that distinction to ensure that there's a general public interest exemption.
I just want to add that there have been some YouTube channels dedicated to exposing the monkey tortures that were shut down. I don't know the exact reasons, but there was a time where on YouTube the people exposing monkey torture were being shut down, while very many videos from the monkey tortures were not. So, I mean, it has certainly been an issue for some.
Yeah, it just, we just doesn't understand like why this content is still there. And the other is, it's just like the educational and the abuse, like the machine doesn't understand. And yeah, we are working on that, I think, as an animal advocacy. And, sometimes advocating for animal welfare can ruffle feathers. Like there's like some pushback from individuals or industries, maybe because your Action for Primates and Lady Freethinker also working with like a big journalism agency like BBC. So there must be like a lot of attention there, maybe from people who doesn't like it. So do you guys have any like experience of like maybe like a threat or something from individuals or industry? Maybe Sarah can tell us if there are any experience on that.
Well, I think working in animal protection, you're basically challenging people's conceptions and their attitude towards animals. So sometimes you're seen as a threat. You're threatening someone's livelihood, or potentially threatening their livelihood, or their enjoyment or their entertainment. So yes, I mean we have experienced where we've had people, usually individuals, who make abusive comments on social media towards us or whatever. So yes, I mean it is something that we have experienced, although not very often, because I think generally people out there do care about animals, and they do recognise when an organisation or a group or an individual is trying to do what they can to make the world a better place for animals.
Yeah, I think that's the one I like. Advocacy and activism is always with that. With ruffling feathers is like a daily life. And maybe Nina, can you tell us if you have like any significant experience about this?
There have been threats on social media against me by individuals who don't like what I'm doing. I've seen people say negative things about both Lady Freethinker and Action for Primates, but these are the people who are enjoying watching monkeys suffering, and they're generally not very nice people in the first place. So they, of course, there are those who wish that we would just stay silent and let them continue doing what they're doing. But that does come with the territory.
Yeah, I'm asking like, what is it like the benefit of working together? Because like 3 years, it must be really hard to just working alone. So I guess like working together must have like a big beneficial for Lady Freethinker and Action for Primates, and also for the AFA coalition. So maybe you can tell us more like what is the benefit and why it's important to collaborate.
Well, I'll say that Action for Primates has expertise in this species in particular that has been invaluable, in my own understanding of this animal, and has helped, Lady Freethinker in turn educate our audience. And, beyond that, this is a massive, massive problem that is impossible to tackle alone, and difficult enough to tackle with others. It's also mentally an extremely difficult topic. It's not easy to watch, animals that you care about being, brutalized and killed. So, for many reasons, it's, really essential, to have this partnership for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've been a very good fit over the last 3 years. Our groups working together on this issue, and having one group in the US and one in the UK, particularly with the global tackling the global torture rings, monkey torture groups. And I think it's certainly been very beneficial. And we each bring our own area of expertise and help each other when it comes to preparing reports or video footage or doing investigative work. It's certainly been, we've appreciated our working relationship very much, and with other organisations in SMAC as well, and Asia for Animals. As Nina says, it's a global subject, and it needs to be tackled globally, and it's good to have that one central voice through SMAC, working on behalf of the various different groups and approaching the social media platforms and preparing reports, etc. I think it's all really important work.
Yeah, I think collaboration is like one of the most important thing to for all the organizations. So we become like more stronger to know we are strong and the other going to be stronger, the other organization. And looking ahead, what are the long-term goals and aspirations from Lady Freethinker and Action for Primates in tackling animal abuse on social media worldwide? And maybe you can tell us how can individuals contribute to help tackling these issues?
Okay. So I think in terms of individuals, how they can contribute to the efforts to tackle social media animal abuse. I mean, there are several strands, but I think individual must never underestimate the importance of what they can do in speaking out against this abuse by doing things such as continuing to submit reports to social media platforms. It can be very disheartening if you report a video and yet you continue to see it up there and active on that particular platform. But it's important to just keep reporting, as well as to not engage in these various different groups or accounts on social media. So not to comment or pass or share or view. All of those things will help contribute to the popularity of a particular account. So you want to reduce the amount of coverage or interest or whatever that particular account gets. So please, we just ask people not to engage at all with these platforms. I think also in terms of what people can do in their own countries is to try and lobby and push for some sort of legislation for social media to, as far as animal cruelty content is concerned. I know that certainly in the UK, that was an important area to have people lobby their members of parliament when it came to the online safety bill. So that's always very important.
Maybe Nina, also you can share us the long-term goals for Lady Freethinker.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is, first of all, to get social media platforms to take strong action to stop this content. We will be keeping the pressure on these platforms. June 4th is a global day of action, urging Meta to remove animal abuse from its platform, including monkey torture. Will be holding a demonstration at their headquarters in Menlo Park. I know that there will be other demonstrators around the world. Action for Primates will be involved in a petition drop-off in the UK. And beyond that, it's going to take a lot of persistence and continual pressure. But I plan to keep doing that until the problem is, if not resolved, very close to it, at least on social media, because there really is no excuse for this content to be available on any social media platform. As Sarah said, stopping the phenomenon itself is a tall order, because it has grown. And very sadly, there are individuals who really want to see macaques being tortured and killed. And, I would like to see more law enforcement action, more arrests, more measures taken to make people think twice and understand that there will be consequences for participating in this. And then, we want to keep educating people and urging them to not engage with this content, report animal cruelty if you see it on social media. Don't fall for those cute baby monkey videos. Don't share them. Even if you mean well by sharing an abusive video with all your friends, what you're actually doing is bumping that video up in the algorithm and helping it. So Public education is a key component, and we have our work cut out for us, but this is a long-term campaign that I could conceivably be working on for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's a long run. It's a marathon. It's not just a. Really agree with that. And just like what you said, that individuals can contribute. Of course, like individuals matters, like anything that you can do, just be aware, to not watch, to not engage, to not share, and please report the content. I think that's all our conversation to you guys. And have anything that you want to say? You want to add anything?
No, just thank you for addressing this issue. It's extremely important, and more people need to be made aware of it. And I just urge people to do what they can to help stop it.
Thank you, both Nina and Sarah, for all your work and for being great members of SMAC. It is really not an easy job, but if we all work together, we can make change. Thank you for speaking on the podcast and sharing your insight and expertise. Thank you also to our listener for tuning in. I am sure you have gained valuable insight to the issue of macaque cruelty on social media. And remember, the fight to end animal cruelty online is ongoing, and it is up to us to raise awareness and to take action. You can learn more about this issue by visiting the SMAC website at www.smaccoalition.com and reading our report, The Cruelty You Don't See, the Suffering of Pet Macaques for Social Media Content. If you would like to find out more about Lady Freethinker and Action for Primates, we will include their links in the episode description. Thank you again for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can find everything you need to know about our work and connect with us at asiaforanimals.com. Tune in for the next episode. Asia for Animals Coalition, a united voice for Asia's animals.